We're talking with J.R. Reagan, Vice President and Global Solution Leader for Risk, Compliance, and Security at Bearing Point.
Correct.
Let's start with some background on Bearing Point. Give us a kind of an understanding of the company.
Sure. Bearing Point is a management and technology consulting company. About 15,000 employees, 40 countries worldwide. We do services around the globe, and we do it in primarily all sectors, so financial services, commercial services, state and local government, all of those sorts of things are really the things that we do. Mm-hmm. My specific role is focusing on risk, compliance, and security whenever we do those kinds of projects.
I would have to think in this day and age, when information and protecting information, privacy, identity theft, all of those issues are out there, what you do has become increasingly important.
It's never a shortage of work, especially with a systems integrator or management and technology consulting company like ours. We're really looking at the big projects, and those inherently have a lot of different parts, moving parts, that involve the security and the risk and the compliance elements of that. Data security is very important now. Personal information is very important now, identity theft, as you had mentioned. And all of those things, really doing that and keeping pace with the threats every day is really a difficult job for most organizations.
And so part of what you do then, correct me if I'm wrong, is kind of balancing some of those interests. The companies that develop technologies that may have exciting applications, but also need to have certain protections to make them valuable to consumers.
Absolutely. And building these types of systems becomes very difficult. You're balancing, as you mentioned, all these different stakeholders, whether it's privacy and policy needs by the public at large, whether it's really locking down certain amounts of data by the organizations putting these types of systems in. All these can sometimes be competing types of needs, but all have to be factored in when you're building these systems. What's really not successful is when the system is put out there in its entirety, and security, risk, compliance, those things are added on at the end. That can really make a good idea turn bad very quickly.
Fair to say that integration is at the heart of what you do?
Absolutely. So we look at things like nanotechnology and other types of technologies, and we really bring those together for a solution to some discrete customer need. It always goes to the heart of our business of taking things that are new, that can be better, cheaper, faster, and like nanotechnology, and putting those in place, integrating those across the customer base. Yeah.
And doing that with, as we talked about, a whole bunch of different parties involved, and I would assume at some time competing interests, if you will?
Absolutely. And a lot of the technologies sometimes don't work well with each other. So really factoring in all those different layers of the requirements of the system needs, these different technologies, and integrating those, really having that singular focus in mind of solving that customer problem. And doing it with the latest generation of technology that you can get, really, creates a challenge for companies like ours. It's a fun challenge. In
terms of clients, you're working with a pretty diverse base, as I understand it.
We do. With the leading governments around the world, we do a lot with the federal government here in the U.S. as well as in the Middle East and Asia and Europe. We also do state and local government types of activities also, and then Wall Street and some of the high-tech manufacturing, energy, oil and gas. So the problems are far-ranging. The issues are constant and pervasive. The challenge for us is to bring those great technologies and solutions, integrate those for the client.
And given the global economy, the growth of technology, the importance of safety and security, I would think a growing industry for you.
It really is. And the projects seem to get more complex over time. The requirements are shifting towards inherently built-in things like security and risk. That's an assumption that's going to be there, regardless of those new technologies you might bring in.
Back with J.R. Reagan, Vice President and Global Solution Leader for Risk, Compliance, and Security at Bearing Point, a technology consulting firm, wide-ranging interests, actually.
Absolutely.
And nanotechnology is something that's caught Bearing Point's interest as well. What is it about nanotechnology that fits?
New field. There's a lot of different uses for it. I think that's really what's caught our eye. And also because our customers are asking for new technologies like nanotech to come in and play a big role for them, whether it's Department of Defense really focusing on sensors as a real enabler for their global information grid, whether it's RFID types of applications for supply chain, and it's medical, looking at how that can be used to do more efficient medical data types of intensive applications for our customers.
If we drill down a little deeper, I know RFID is a project that you're working on. People would probably be surprised to hear the term RFID, but they certainly know it when they're scanning goods, or now they're tracking marathon runners with RFID in marathon courses. It's pervasive, but I know you're working in that space.
Yeah, and we're doing some unique things like tracking customer food safety in at least one unique project of really making sure up front in the supply chain that we know where that food is originating, whether it could be beef or other types of things, and making sure along the way that we're able to track that. Unique customer application. You can certainly see how things like security would be important in that. Really tracking that food hasn't been tampered with, that the information is correct. So applications like that, I think, are great examples for not only RFID, but even where nanotechnology can play into that space.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it the case that a company or a client that you're working with will specifically ask you to look at a certain integration? Or you will see the opportunity and talk to the client and say, gee, have you considered this? Or is there maybe some combination of both?
It's always something of both. I think the art of the possible is a joint discovery process between the customer and somebody, a firm like ours, of really listening to those needs. They might have an idea of where this could go. They might have an idea of things that they've tried. But what they don't know is our own experience. And it may have happened in the Middle East when they're in Albany, New York. We can always bring those to the table and say, what if? And bring those technologies and say, if we applied this to your particular case, here's what we could possibly get out of that.
Mm-hmm. I know you had a chance to tour the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering and the Albany Nanotech Complex and get that firsthand look at the world of nanotechnology. What were your impressions?
Well, the thing that really struck me was how practical and real world they were trying to get to. There was a lot of leading edge companies there. There's a sense of partnership there. But it was always focused on, at the end of the day, where could this go? And I think that plus the partnership angle, plus the real intensive collaboration between the local community and the college really struck me as something that's very unique.
Mm-hmm. And certainly globally, to see the amount of collaboration between university, industry, government is something that you really don't see to this level, I think, anywhere else in the world.
Absolutely. You know, firms like ours sometimes complain that the students that coming out of universities don't always have that business knowledge. I think the College of Nanotechnology is really changing that and really getting ahead of that by involving firms like ours, involving firms early in the cycle to say, how could we actually use this for real-world applications in the business?
And to have a chance to get in there, as you mentioned, early in the cycle, that's really key, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And being able to take advantage of that systems integration, of knowing that we can invent lots of different nanotech devices and technologies, and then how would those be used? And that's very unique, and we're very excited to be a part of that.
Back with J.R. Reagan, Vice President and Global Solution Leader for Risk, Compliance, and Security with Bearing Point. Boy, we hit on three topics in your title, risk, compliance, and security.
Yes. That
as we look out to the future and look at, I would dare to say, just about anything you can think of, those are going to be key elements of developing new technology.
Absolutely. What we're starting to see now through the advances in things like nanotechnology, RFID, lots of different applications, they have a sense of identity now. And really the data that comes out of them, you really want to know that that's secure. The applications of nanotech towards biomedical types of things are very sensitive and very particular to a human being. They really want to know that that's safe and secure. I think with all of these applications, when they're built in a large scale, even in the state and local government space, that if you don't factor in risk, compliance, and security from the outset, you do it at the end. It becomes very expensive, very difficult to do effectively. So all these things are factored in from the start.
And does it also, if you don't factor it in from the beginning, become you end up having to solve a problem rather than prevent one?
That's a good point. You end up having to solve a problem that you didn't intend to solve from the start. You end up creating your own problems to solve. It's not really where you want to be. And it's inherent now with applications, large scale or small scale, federal, state and local, Wall Street. It's assumed that the security, that the risk management, the compliance is going to be there in those applications. Most consumers and users, citizens, really do not like when something is insecure, and they deem it as a failure of that project when it could be very successful otherwise.
In the role of a technology consultant, you get a chance to really get a pretty broad view of what's out there. Right. What do you see as the real exciting growth areas? 21st century, we know what the issues are and the challenges that are out there in terms of gas prices and all the things that consumers are familiar with. Right. What do you see as really the growth areas?
Well, I think that really we hit upon it a little bit with nanotech. I think that is so pervasive in what you can do with that. That singularly has the potential effect of really moving a lot of industries forward where they may have stalled from this point. Things as putting sensors on consumer goods, putting sensors on human beings so you can track their medical information, advance healthcare, for example. All those things I think really are things that we can look forward to. I think along with that, advances in identity management to really track all of that. All those seem really exciting to us.
And many different technologies that will promote convenience. Yeah. And yet, of course, the question is how do you become more convenient but still protect all of that important information? I think of something as simple as being able to swipe the credit card and all of that, but gee, where is that information going?
Well, that's
who's going to see it?
You know, any significant advances in science are indistinguishable from magic, as they say, right? And something like that really kind of goes into that realm of it's easy, it's convenient. I don't think about the security. Then it's very successful. So I would like for the industry to really take a notice of security and risk and compliance, especially as related to nanotechnology, especially as it relates to building large systems, and really making sure that that is there from the outset. So really the benefits of that system can be utilized from the very start.
That sounds like the message for the technology developers of the future. Factor in the security, the risk, and all of that at the outset before you're too far along.
Absolutely. Let the technology be used to its best. Don't let security get in the way of that.